Welcome to Ready, Set, Hunt. Whether you're an aspiring, new, or seasoned hunter, join us as we share our experiences and learn from other hunters around the country. You got there, Chris? That's your turkey license or licenses, hunting licenses?
We have a resident small game, state waterfowl stamp, federal duck stamp, pheasant stamp. We got a bonus resident antlerless deer license. Got another bonus, and got the main license, which was torn off and used.
Are those last year's licenses?
Yeah, 24.
Oh, I was thinking that you just had gone out and bought those. I was laughing really hard when you did that before we started recording, because when we're recording, what we see our video resolution's a little bit lower. I couldn't tell at first that that was your hunting licenses, and so when it came down like accordion style and like unfolded, I literally thought you were holding up like a thing of condoms. I was like, why are you showing me this?
Nope. That's definitely not what I'm holding up.
So sorry, that's why I was laughing so hard, because I realized what it was, but my mind went somewhere else.
I couldn't figure out why you just started laughing so hard. I found all these in my pack or my little backpack, and I'm just like going through my gear and cleaning stuff out because, I'm going with you now out west.
Yeah.
And I can't throw things away real quick. I'm not one of those guys that's okay to just to throw things. I'm kind of nostalgic. I'm kind of a little bit of a hoarder.
Yeah. I hold on to my licenses probably longer than I need to also, but I just bought my turkey license the other day. So that's sitting in my wallet ready to be used next couple weeks.
I pulled out my scratch call and my other call, getting ready to get out there and call those suckers in. And seeing them everywhere as I drive. They're all fanned out, taunting me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I talked to you on the phone earlier today, but on my drive up to Duluth, Minnesota, which is where I'm at for work right now. Yeah, I mean, the entire drive was looking out into fields and seeing fanned out turkeys, and man, it's coming quick. I'm excited. But Chris, I mean, today's episode, what do we use to harvest turkeys?
I want to know if anyone's ever played the game Contra. It's a very nostalgic, I think Super Nintendo, Super NES.
I mean, I've played a lot of Super Nintendo, but I don't think I've played Contra.
There is so it's like, your 2D guys, two guys, your red guy and your blue guy, and they're running across the level. And long story short, you get, depending on stuff that flies by, you shoot it and like the power comes out, right? And there's one in there called, what is it called? Spread, I think it is. So like your gun shoots a spread and it gets really, really big the further away it goes. And it's, to be honest, one of the more crappy ones in the game. But that's what we're talking about today. Scatterguns.
Scatterguns.
Scat blasters.
The true jack of all trades when it comes to hunting.
I love shotguns.
I feel like
I love them.
I think maybe our affinity for shotguns is partially due to the fact that in Minnesota that's like the main game. You know what I mean? I mean, we've mentioned it a million times before, but in Minnesota, it's divided into two regions for deer hunting. You've got your northern region, which is going to be rifle, and then kind of the southern region, you're only allowed to use shotguns for deer hunting. And so, if you grow up in the southern half of Minnesota and you're hunting, a shotgun is a lot more valuable to you than than a rifle, unless you just like plinking and stuff.
When you say shotguns, are you including slug guns?
I include slug guns, especially since there's shotguns where you can swap out the barrels between a between like a bird barrel and a rifled barrel. You know.
which I do have.
Hmm. A lot of people do.
I enjoy a good slug gun. There's something special, like old school Minnesotan deer camp for me. It's a bunch of
Hmm.
guys that got their shotguns and they're in the woods.
Yeah, I don't know anything different. I've never shot a whitetail with a rifle before. That's so foreign to me. You know, it really is. And I mean,
That is strange.
I know if you just head east a little bit into Wisconsin, you can use a rifle anywhere you want. But like, yeah, just a weird concept in my mind.
I mean, to be fair, I enjoy my 20 gauge so much that I there are scenarios where I would enjoy bringing it out west and hunting with it if it was acceptable.
I think it's legal. I think it's
Is it?
acceptable. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. I don't think you. It's not. I don't think it's like you can't. But I think the majority of people would
Now that I
argue
think
that
of it,
why
I
would you?
yeah, now that I think of it, I guess it would be legal. It's got enough weight and energy and
It's got the size requirement. You know.
okay, okay.
Yeah, you just treat the
Ooh,
projectile as a.
I'm starting to think of all sorts of applications.
Yeah, I'll. I think I'm gonna stick to my center fire rifle for western hunting. But
I
yeah,
remember
so
my cousin had a at one time he had a scope on his 12 gauge pump.
just like a Remington 870 or something.
Yeah,
Uh,
and yeah, it's funny because he'd always I think from my memory, he'd always talk about being able to like drop anything. But again, with the scope on it, he was shooting at about max 75 yards.
it was probably like a little, you know, like
So you better be dropping something
yeah,
at
probably like
that.
a little 1 to 4 power scope or something.
I don't remember what it was, but
uh,
there's some good memories there. But when I do think of shotguns, I do think of bird guns
yeah,
primarily. No longer do I think deer at all. Um,
yeah, I
Even
would.
when I think my 20 gauge, that's not really a shotgun to me just because it's rifled and like the barrel's rifled
Hmm.
and we can shoot out to 300 on that. And I'm not worried at all.
Yeah, but so like with that being said, like now our minds kind of go to bird guns, but I mean shotguns really are the jack of all trades. I mean they're so versatile. There's so many different applications that you can use a shotgun in. Um, we're gonna talk about that, especially for people who are just getting into hunting. I mean, a first purchase of a between a rifle and a shotgun would not be a poor choice, especially if you're interested in multiple kinds of hunting. I mean, a shotgun to me is kind of a no brainer.
Yeah. I mean, as long as you have the ability to throw slugs, if you have interchangeable barrels
Hmm.
and you can throw some slugs in and you go deer hunting, and then you can also I mean, the application for bird hunting with the shotgun is pretty common sense for those of us that have lived in the hunting space for and are familiar with it. But I mean, in Minnesota, you got turkey, duck, pheasant, grouse. Am I missing anything? I mean, you got your small game like squirrels. You got lots of different things.
I mean, there's all the upland
Dove.
species, yeah, all the migratory birds, cranes, you know, all that fun stuff. But Chris, what was your first shotgun?
It was the 870 that my dad
Remington
handed
870.
yeah
Just a
handed down to me.
legendary all around shotgun. Pump action. Yeah.
Dude, I have during the fall, this is totally random. During the fall, my house gets covered in ladybugs, those Asian beetles. They're not
Hmm.
even real like I don't even know what real ladybug is, but apparently the Asian beetles. I vacuumed up maybe 5,000 of those stupid things this last fall, and somehow, some way, a portion of them have made their way through the house into my office, and they're like coming out of hibernation.
They're resurrecting.
Dude, I get like one a day in my office, and I just flicked one right up going across my computer there. So I just
Just
want
now?
yeah, I just want the world to
Wow.
know I'm very frustrated. If anyone has some ideas of how to get rid of these suckers, I can't use my shotgun in the house, so otherwise it would be a full it'd be a fun time down here.
Well, you've seen those little salt bug guns, right? It's kind of like a
I
shotgun,
have.
but it just shoots rock salt instead. So
Yeah.
just use one of those. It's kind of,
Just fill
especially
up
in
my
the,
office with rock salt blasts.
yeah, yeah,
Sure the carpet would appreciate that.
little bit of rock salt never hurt anyone.
No, I mean my first memories going out to the deer stand with my dad, putting the 12 gauge in my hand, like I shared before. Scared to pull the trigger on that thing because it was still as a little kid, and I like. There's not a whole lot. There's like a lot to me from the heart and mental capacity, but from the physical specimen side of things, I'm more like, I guess you would say, cheetah and giraffe area of comparability.
You're of tall stature, but slight of build.
Maybe like sandhill crane. Sandhill crane would fit that as
That's a
well.
pretty good comparison. It's your spirit animal right there.
But I'm not like I'm not I'm not like that terribly. Like the legs on a sandhill are really, really bird like. I don't got really bird like legs, right?
They're pretty birdy, Chris.
Well, I can
Well,
go further and farther with the long strides and go over fences that typically most cannot.
yeah, you do go over fences with ease, which is an area that I tend to struggle with. I have to look for the low point in a fence.
You've torn some pants.
I got these short legs. They're real thick. They're powerful, but they're not great for traversing fence rows. That's for sure.
Jumping creeks. That's a danger too.
Yeah, but you know I can really shine during a pack out. Uh, um, yeah, my
Hey,
first shotgun.
I take less steps to pack out than you, so get over it.
It's not a competition here, Chris.
Is it? Is it? Isn't it?
I don't know. Uh,
Back to shotguns.
back to shotguns here. Um, so my first shotgun that I owned was the 12 gauge side by side shotgun, which thinking about that gun for, I mean, my dad let me choose what gun I wanted, and for whatever reason I chose a double barrel. I think it's because that's what my grandpa had, and I just, you know,
You didn't have
thought
like an
that
Elmer
was cool.
Fudd complex like from
No,
cartoons growing up.
or like a Western coach gun or something like
Pesky
that.
wabbits. I was
Yeah,
out here gonna get them.
didn't. Yeah, it wasn't a FUD, but yeah, that's what I chose. I think it was also because it was fairly inexpensive. But I remember the first gun I ever shot when I was, I think, so you know, most kids they grow up, they start by shooting like 22 long
Oh,
rifle.
dude! I first gun I ever shot was a 22.
Not me. I mean, I had a BB gun, but we're not going to count that. I mean, it's a.
I had a BB gun as well.
I'm not going to count that, but
Why?
like,
It's a
so my
gun.
yeah, but I'm talking like a gun that shoots a projectile using like gunpowder. All right.
Well, I used to line up the striped gophers at the farm
Mm,
with the
good.
BB gun.
Oh, I mean, I killed lots of squirrels and rabbits and stuff with a BB gun growing up, but the first actual gun that I shot was a 12 gauge pump. Um, it was I can't remember what model it was, but I mean that thing had to have weighed 9 pounds. That thing was an absolute beast. I think it had a 30-inch barrel on it, which is giant, especially for an 8-year-old. I mean, I'm pretty sure the gun was probably taller than me, and knocked me clear of my butt. We were shooting clays up at my cabin in this area. It was like kind of like a sand pit type deal, and yeah, we're shooting clays with my family, and yeah, that shotgun knocked me clear of my butt, and so didn't shoot a shotgun again for a while after that. But what did I do when I wanted my first shotgun? Just lined right back up for that 12 gauge and for that punishment. Can I say I'm a glutton for punishment? But
Have you ever seen the breech loader single shot shotgun that I have? It was my grandpa's.
yeah, yeah, we found it. I think we found it in the that like outbuilding at your family farm.
You ever see those guys restore old? They like pull them out of the dirt, like World War II, German grease gun. I
Videos like
wonder.
that are my guilty pleasure.
I wonder if it could be saved, and if it could be saved. I mean, dude, some of the guns that come out of rivers and in the mud are gnarly.
It it could be saved, Chris, but the stock on that thing is like cracked and being held together by
No,
duct tape.
I'd do it. Get a new stock.
Maybe, yeah.
There'd be something cool about saying this is my grandpa's gun.
You just gotta hope the inside like of the
Oh,
barrel
it's
isn't
gone,
just
man.
absolutely
It's
rusted and pitted. I
it's
don't know.
it's shot.
Yeah, I don't. Who knows?
It's gone.
I feel like a shotgun would be easier to restore than like a German submachine gun or something like that. But
Yeah.
yeah, but um, so let's talk, Chris. Let's talk about really what makes shotguns so versatile. Um, is it really just the fact that they can do pretty much anything?
I mean, what can't a shotgun do? And that's a real question. You got the right load. I mean, there's different sizes of you know, the bullet weight that you can have in there, the different type of slugs. I'm certain you could go out and do a safari hunt, and if you're close enough, the shotgun will take out any animal, anyone. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
Uh,
I guess the biggest limitation would be range. And we've shot really far with our slug guns, but I mean, there is a there is a point where you kind of got to draw a line and be like, okay, maybe this isn't very responsible
I
anymore.
mean, even with the shotgun, the slug guns that we have, real comfortable 100, 150 right in there,
Oh yeah.
all day long. And that's great for a shotgun, especially when you know you're deadly accurate with it.
Hmm.
But yeah, the application for you literally can hunt everything, especially if you have interchangeable barrels, like we had mentioned. Um, you you could get away with never buying another firearm for the rest of your life and do it all.
It's very true, but where's the fun in that, Chris? Where's the fun in that?
Well, it's what's fun is as we've gotten into, I think, rifles specifically and Western hunting, the space of it's like a space of customability and also personality, likes, dislikes, preferences, and it's to me it's become a little bit of like a hot rod space. It's like a hot rod community where it's like, hey, look at this, it's a 350, or here's a 457, 5 speed, 3 speed. Like all these guys get out there and they really, keep the hood off so you can see the whole engine, or they supercharge it or throw a turbo or whatever they're doing with it. And I never really understood. I was really blessed, and I grew up with a 1969 Camaro that my dad found and pulled out of a barn, and it wasn't mint or anything. It had some mice nests in it and a squirrel nest, and I spent some time, but I got to drive it, through high school. Um, so and I grew up around my dad loving Mopar and muscle cars, so I understand the classic space and the muscle car space and the how people love those. But
Hmm.
the hot rod space is even like a further community inside of that,
Yeah.
which I don't really understand. Um,
Except for when it
until
comes to
until I got into rifles, because now every little piece of it means something to me, like a preference space. Or and I'm is it to you, like, have you had I'm asking you, have you had the same experience in that? Because shotguns shotguns are more simple. It's like if you have a shotgun, the every shotgun does the same thing. You have your like pump, you have your, I guess, your lever action, you have your breech loader, you have your semi-automatic. But from like if you're going to go duck hunting, everybody's using like the same kind of like round. It's not like there are some variances in like quality or the type of metal you're using in there, and like how much it's packed, like 3.5 inch shells versus three. But no one like it's not a hot rod community like the rifle space is. So like if you go out with your shotguns, you might have a really nice shotgun and people appreciate a really nice shotgun, but no one's going out and customizing their shotguns. Do you know what I
uh,
mean?
that is not true.
Are you am I way off here?
You're so far
Okay,
off.
let me scale back. No one in our community and our group of friends or anyone that we brush shoulders with is like showing each other up with their shotguns.
Correct. Yeah. I mean,
when it comes to
there's a
rifles, we talk a lot about like Cerakoted barrels or carbon fiber or like, the length of them, or like what's your threading on the end for the suppressor. Like there's a lot of,
what's your twist
it's
rate,
way more
short action, long
customizable.
action,
Yeah.
all that stuff.
I'm just asking you, do you have that same impression, and that have you had that same experience as we've gotten into rifles, and do you still feel like shotguns are more like simple, if that makes sense?
I think you can get into the weeds a lot more with rifles, just because of their modality, and yeah, and because of what they do. Um, there's so much more performance to be gained or lost depending on a certain component you choose, right? And again, at some point you get to like, okay, we're really splitting hairs here. Like some of these things really aren't a big deal. And I do feel with shotguns, the whole as a whole, they are more simple. But just like there's
Like a
there's
bird, like when you're talking bird guns for shotguns, you're only talking like 60 yards, 70 yards. You know what
yeah,
I mean? And rifles are talking 1,000 yards, and then the bullet is doing completely different things based on your load, your caliber, how much drop. Like there's so much more science into that. That's what I guess I'm saying. But continue.
there is a very very hardcore and devoted um subsect of people when it comes to shotguns as well, especially if you
Yeah,
get into like target shooting, clay, exporting clays, all
yeah.
that kind of stuff.
Collectors, different things. I
Yep.
get that. I'm talking
Yeah.
just more like you're from an average standpoint of the populace that hunts, who are exposed to rifles and shotguns. You're going to find the community of rifle hunters. There's so much more vast customization going on in the rifle space than there is the shotgun space. Typically, if you're going to do a shotgun, you probably go to Shields or Fleet Farm and you're like, I know the one I want. You can spend $2,500 or $5,000 or whatever it is, or you can spend $600, and
Hmm.
you can all go out and shoot birds, and you're going to have the same real experience. No one is going like, outside of like seeing a black eagle or something like that, I'd be like, oh, that's really nice. That's a really nice shotgun.
Right.
That's kind of the extent of the conversation. But if I see a guy out rifle hunting for like antelope or something, and he's got a 20-inch barrel with a oversized can, because that's what he loves on the end of it, and he's shooting like a 300 WSM, you've started to get my attention. I'm like, ooh, I want to check this out. You
Sure.
know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess there's a little more sexiness to a rifle. I kind of the shotgun to me is kind of like a working man's tool, which I mean, which a rifle can be too. But I feel like we've really hot rodded rifles so much, especially just in the past few years, that yeah, it doesn't seem that there's as much that goes into shotguns. And now, I mean, on the topic of shotguns, I mean, there's all sorts of things you can get into when it comes to fitment, barrel length, action type, uh, finishes. You can get real nerdy on this stuff, but in like a hunting application, it is much more straightforward
Mm-hmm.
tool. So I mean, I think maybe we should jump into maybe what the different types of shotguns are, for our new and prospective hunters out there, especially if they're thinking about buying their first shotgun. And like, so like, there's a bunch of different kinds of shotguns and different types of actions, right? So like, what should they select? So I think we'll talk about that a little bit. Um, so do you
Well,
want
you're
to
gonna
just,
yeah. Let's jump into it.
yeah, let's just
Your
start.
basic shotgun is what? Like the tried and true. If you are gonna be like, that's the textbook classic shotgun. Do you have one or two?
If I were someone first getting into hunting, especially bird hunting, but let's just say hunting in general, I'm not sure what I want to do yet. Whether I want to hunt deer, and I'm in a shotgun zone, or I want to hunt birds. My go-to would probably be a pump action 12 gauge shotgun. Probably like a Remington 870 or a Mossberg 500, just because that's a gun that you can get interchangeable barrels. So you can have a rifled barrel for shooting slugs for deer, and you can also have your smooth bore bird barrel. And it's a pump action. It will pretty much never fail you. Those are like the two most tried and true utilitarian shotguns ever.
Yeah,
I
and
really,
then beyond that, you're either looking at 20 gauge, 12 gauge, are pretty much the standard two sizes
yeah.
of uh you know.
There's other gauges you can get into, but you're starting to get into the weeds a little bit with the.
Yep.
I know the 28 gauge is a gauge that's been becoming more popular, but again, that's not going to be a slug gun.
Is the
Um,
410 considered a shotgun?
yeah, yep, it's considered a shotgun. The shells look like tiny little half pencils.
I know it's there was
It's a
always a
great.
four there was always a 410 on the farm, and I believe the joke running joke was that the barrel was bent, so it'd always shoot way left. So it was it was something I never really entertained. I don't even know if I ever shot it.
Yep. Some people really find a sweet spot for like the 16 gauge because it kind of
Yeah,
splits the space between a 12 and a 20, but
yeah.
16 gauge is hard to find and shells are hard to find. And so that's not like a super common one anymore. I think it used to be a little more common, but not so much anymore. But yeah, so I mean a pump action, which is, Hollywood, when people think of shotguns, pump action is pretty much what comes to mind. It's the universal sound, the it's what it sounds like. There's a slide, which is your
What's your
forearm
favorite
handle.
movie shotgun like that? Do you have one?
I don't
I
know.
mean, you got Terminator, right?
Yeah, there's always
And he's like
Terminator.
rolling the lever action in there.
Mm-hmm.
No Country for Old Men.
Yep. Ooh,
The
one that just came to mind is the Dark Knight when the
Oh
Joker's
yeah,
walking down the street and he's got a shotgun.
oh
Boom.
yeah. Secondhand Lions when the two old dudes sit on the
Oh
porch
yeah,
and shoot with their double. With those, I think they're double barrel, right?
I think they're double
Side by
guns. Yeah,
side, side by sides.
probably side by sides. Yeah,
No, I think maybe one was a pump.
could be,
And then you get
but
like you'll get stuff like Zombieland and yeah, shotguns are. There's nothing more tried and true than the
yep.
and then the
Uh,
blast.
so yeah, if you're buying your first shotgun, a pump action is a
Mm-hmm.
great choice. I would highly recommend it. They're just reliable. I mean, they don't jam very often, hardly ever. Their
Pretty easy
mechanism
to
is
clean,
is
pull them apart.
yep.
Yep.
The mechanism is just simple. Um, and so it's just kind of no fuss. So if you're not someone who is, looking to get something fancy, a pump action shotgun's a great option for you. Um, then you've got your break actions, right? So you've got
What's a
there's
break action, Pete?
so break action is kind of maybe what you've seen in some old cowboy movies. And you think of like a double barrel shotgun. There's a little lever near the receiver where you push that lever open, and then the barrels separate from the receiver, and it breaks open. So it exposes the inside of your barrels, right? Um, so what that's doing is that is giving you access to slide the shells into the chamber of the shotgun. And what that when you hear that crack, what that's also doing, there's a little lever mechanism underneath that is pulling essentially cocking the firing pins of the shotgun. The firing pins are the two little metal pins that strike the primer on the shotgun shell. So, and then when you close it, it's all ready to go. So there's three different kinds or basic kinds of break action shotguns. You've got your single shot, so that's just going to be one single barrel. Now that's like old McDonald farmer style shotgun. Although they're making a bit of a comeback as a turkey gun.
I mean, you got a break action single slug gun.
That's my slug gun. Yep. Um, but the the old the old farmer shotguns were smooth bore, so you'd still use like BBs and pellets and stuff. Um, and then there's the side by side, so that's two barrels that are set side by side, just like it sounds. I own a couple of those as well. I Side by sides are kind of I love them. And we can get into why maybe a little later. And then you have your over under, which is there's the two barrels. It's also a double barrel gun. The two barrels are stacked on top of each other in a vertical orientation. Um, those have become very popular in like the upland and pheasant space, as well as the sporting clays space. That's kind of the standard, unless someone's doing semi-auto, but that's usually kind of a different event. So yeah, those are your break actions. Um, Chris, why don't you tell me a little bit about bolt actions, since you have one?
Yeah, I love, like I said, love my 20 gauge. Um, it's no different than your standard rifle. Got the brake, the lever that comes up, pull the action back. Next round, or if it's not loaded, the round goes in and slide it forward, shove it down. She's ready to go. What more do you want to know?
Have you ever seen a bolt action shotgun that doesn't have a rifled barrel?
Good question. Nope, I
Me
don't
either.
think so. Don't think so.
I don't. Maybe at some point one was made, but none that I'm aware of. Um, I have, however, seen lever action shotguns, and that is
You
not
got me.
with.
You got me thinking down rabbit holes now, and I'm like, man, I want the BAR from World War II.
Mm-hmm.
I want something like that that's rifled, and I got my shotgun shells in it, and it's semi-auto, and I just
I wouldn't be surprised they had something like that. They have semi-auto shotgun ARs. Do you know that?
yeah.
Yeah, those are pretty cool.
But I'm talking like for deer hunting purposes. I mean, that's really that ventures against everything that I believe in because I'm that ethics and
One shot, one
conservation.
kill type
Yeah,
deal.
just put it on the target, make sure it goes down, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we don't need to be like the neighbors who shoot 25 shells in about 7 seconds. And
Yeah.
is there anything left of that deer over there?
But yeah, there is a lever action shotgun. I mean, there
Yep.
have been. I've seen some. I haven't personally shot one myself, and those are actual like bird loads too, not rifled. If I remember correctly, the kind of the most famous lever action was a Winchester Model 1887.
Hmm.
So cool,
It
really
means
cool.
that means absolutely nothing to me, but that's
Just a,
I was like,
it's just an old classic gun. Kind of looks like an old, just kind of like an old 30-30 or something, but shoots
My
shotgun
dad's
shells.
had a couple 30-30s in my growing up, and one thing about the lever actions is I think they like hurt my hands.
Yeah.
Like especially when you rack them fast and your
Mm-hmm.
hands below it. Like you do that a couple times and it just starts to wear on your knuckles if you get it right. And I'm not a fan.
Let's go wear some leather gloves,
I
Chris.
think they're cool. I think 30-30s are like awesome, but uh, they're not really practical for my purposes.
Yeah. No
And then
repeating carbines for you, Chris.
no. And then would you? Well, yeah. Then you got black powder on there, right?
Yeah, my grandpa was actually big into black powder shotguns.
Mm.
He had one hanging on his wall forever. Two hammer, if it's side by side, two hammers. I mean, just imagine like a flintlock musket or like a percussion cap musket, essentially. But
Hmm.
instead of putting musket balls down that barrel, you're putting a wad and some shot in. But I mean, obviously with the black powder first. But so I've never shot one, but that's cool. And I know that there's like I don't know, the black powder guys, like black powder shotgun guys. To me, they're kind of like traditional archers in a way, like recurve. It's just like you're literally just making it harder for yourself, just for the purpose of making it harder for yourself, because it's kind of like an old art form in a way. So, but yeah, I mean that's kind of cool. But and then there's the one we haven't touched on, which I think is probably the most popular now, is just the good old semi-auto. Um, and I mean, and semi-auto is essentially what semi-auto is when you pull the trigger, it shoots a shell, and then what using whatever mechanism your shotgun is designed to use, it uses essentially either the power from the gases released from that first shell to reload the next shell, or it's using the recoil or the inertia from the shell to rack the next shell into the chamber. Those are two different types of shotguns or semi-auto shotguns. The first one I described is called a gas operated shotgun, um, which which is fairly common, usually seen in slightly cheaper or lower end shotguns. And then the other one is called an inertia driven shotgun, which is typically found in higher end shotguns and a lot of like hunting situations. I mean, there's a the downside to the inertia driven is that it's using recoil to reload the next shell, so they do tend to recoil a little harder than a gas driven gun. But the downside to a gas driven gun is that that gas is used to essentially you push a piston that reloads that next shell. And for whatever reason, a lot of gas guns they come with two pistons, one that is for lighter recoiling rounds and one that's for heavier recoiling rounds. And so usually you'd use like the lighter piston for like target shooting and clays and stuff, and then the heavier recoiling piston for hunting rounds. So that's a little inconvenient to me. Whereas with an inertia driven shotgun, you can put whatever shell you want in there, and it's gonna cycle through. Um, so I know you and I both run inertia shotguns. We both have the same shotgun. Um, but yeah,
Wish I had the 3500, but it's okay.
I am eyeing up a new shotgun. Um,
You're
I don't
never content.
I I just I'm curious about things out there. I've had the same my same semi-auto shotgun for a long time, and to the point we were talking about how like shotgun they all essentially do the same thing. Yes and no. As I've hunted more, I have different shotguns for different purposes because yes, you can have one shotgun that will do kind of everything. It'll do kind of everything okay, but it's not going to do any one thing really well. You know what I mean?
I don't know. My
I
shotgun does
mean,
things very well because I'm an excellent shot. So
okay, but shooting performance, that's only one part of the equation. So
it likes to jam on Fiocchi shells though.
so we just don't buy Fiocchi shells.
Hate those
But
things.
they're probably great shells out of other shotguns, but they just
They're
don't work in
probably
ours.
fantastic shells, but they like to like I load 3 in there, one goes off, and the other 2 are jammed in there. Can't do anything with it.
Yeah. But so like let me give you a different example. So, I do a fair amount of grouse hunting, right? And where you grouse hunt, it's typically really thick cover. You're walking through young trees, and they're really tight together. So you're busting brush, and then if a grouse flushes in front of you 15 or 20 yards, you've got to get your gun up in this thick brush, get lined up, and take a shot. Now, could you go grouse hunting with a 12 gauge semi-auto that has a 28-inch barrel and it weighs 7.5 pounds? You could, you certainly could, but I would wager that my 20 gauge side by side with a 24 or maybe a 24-inch barrel that weighs 6 pounds is going to do a lot better in that situation, just because it's lighter, easier for me to carry around. It's also it's a 20 gauge, so it doesn't recoil quite as much, and also with that shorter barrel, I'm able to swing and not hit as much brush. It's just it's an easier gun to operate all
I
around
I
in
was
that
always
situation.
I was always kind of like got the guidance from the original my peers, right? My uncles and the community that I grew up in, that you didn't need a semi-auto shotgun, semi-automatic shotgun because you're still kind of young and you don't want to get trigger happy is kind of the thought process around that, which is totally true. If you're just starting out, um, go pump because the mechanics of it is getting your gun up on target, pulling the trigger, and you're shuffling through that pump cycle, the chamber
Mm-hmm.
another round, and then you're reacquiring that target. Now that's for when you start to get advanced and you're more familiar with it. And I'm not saying you can't go out and buy a semi-auto right from the get-go. It's just every time you pull that trigger, you're what's nice is you don't have to let your eye leave. You don't have to let the barrel leave like from the action of pumping or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
You can stay on target. I guess, easier a little bit. But
Yeah.
that was always kind of what was communicated to me. And it's not right or wrong. It's just like how I grew up.
I mean, I think there's validity to it. I will say with a semi-auto, it is a lot easier to like if you miss your first shot, just because it's that shell's ready to go, so you can just
Yep.
send it again, and if you
Yep.
miss again, you can just send it again. You
Yep.
know what I mean? There's a you kind of lose maybe a little bit of
Well, I
I don't
think
know
I think
self
definitely
control.
when we're waterfowl hunting or dove hunting, I don't know if yeah, I'll just say if since we're running semi-automatic shotguns, it is much easier, like you just said, to just pull that trigger when you've missed. You pull it again, you miss, pull it again. Um, what pays off is when you give it an extra second and you're really thinking about like, okay, where do I think I missed with the birds coming, cornering to me, and maybe they're diving down or something of that nature.
Hmm.
You're trying to constantly analyze. Um, and I think the semi-automatic shotgun helps in certain ways and maybe hurts in certain ways, but it totally depends on the shooter and how proficient you are, how much you practice. I don't know if I have any other thought about that right now, but
Yeah, I think the point I was making is the shotgun is so versatile because you can do so much with just one. But the point that I was making is that just because you can do something with one doesn't mean that like it's going to be the best for everything. Um, so like in a perfect world, actually, I don't even want to do this exercise yet because I think we need to talk a little bit more about, maybe some of the other idiosyncrasies and maybe some of the other aspects of shotguns that we need to discuss.
well,
Um,
let's jump into birdshot specifically,
yep.
if we can.
Hmm.
And for like birdshot is the general idea or understanding. If you've never heard of this term birdshot before, if you've never been around shotguns, just think of your ammunition, your shell, as having a bunch of small pellets, usually lead or steel. You'll get some other stuff like bismuth in there. They're tiny.
Tungsten's a really popular one now too.
Yeah, they're tiny. They're BB sized, and there's different sizes of those BBs. So you're going to see shot size on those. But those are ideal for birds, small game, squirrels, rabbits, things that you want to uh, you know, render the animal no longer breathing, but you don't want to like blow it apart, right? If you're using a slug, you'd blow it apart. But
Hmm.
the effects of those pellets, like when they're coming out of that gun, is spreading out more of a wide pattern. You're increasing your chances of hitting something that's moving fast or a small target. Peter, talk to me about the pros and maybe the cons that come to mind with birdshot,
Yeah. Well, when it comes to birdshot, it's really knowing the size of shot that you want to use for the game you're hunting, right? Um,
which is super important because you can
it
definitely use the wrong size shot.
yeah, like you would never want to use like the smallest size shot on like a bigger animal, right? That
A
just wouldn't
goose.
you that right. A goose would be a great example. While it could be lethal and it could kill the animal at like a short range, at longer range, that those smaller pellets just aren't going to do nearly as much damage. That goose is going to be able to absorb a lot more pellets without it being lethal than say something smaller like a mourning dove, which is another common thing that we hunt.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important to understand the shot size system and how that works. And if you're okay, Chris, I want to kind of describe that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So you have, when it comes to shot size, there's kind of two systems. There's your numerical system, and then it gets goofy and it gets into this kind of alphabetical system, but not really. There's only a few kinds of shot that are denoted by actual letters. Um, but your shot numbers are going to be um, essentially the larger the number, the smaller the shot size. And basically, so like the smallest shot that I can think of would be like 9. That's what you're going to find most places is something really small.
I typically see 8, but yeah, I think
Yeah.
I don't know if I've seen 9.
I've seen 9. It's pretty common for like really small game birds.
Mm.
So like 9. Now 9 is a higher number on a scale from 9 to 1. It's a higher number, but it's a smaller shot size. Um, and so basically, with that smaller shot size, let's think of it this way. So someone would say, what would be the benefit of using, say, like a number 9 shot versus like a number 8 shot? They're both really small. You can use them on the same animals, right? So what would be the benefit? What would be the benefit of a 9 over an 8? It really is going to depend on your situation, but think of it this way: the smaller the shot size means the more BBs that are going to be in that shotgun shell. So let's say that we have a shotgun shell that on the box it says that there is 1 ounce of worth of shot, which is going to be your pellets, right? So the weight the weight of the pellets of the payload of the pellets doesn't change, but since the 9 is smaller than the 8, you're going to have more pellets in that shotgun shell to make up that 1 ounce. So if you just do that down the line, as the pellets get larger and larger, the fewer of those pellets you're able to fit into that shotgun shell, which makes up that 1 ounce payload. Now, where bigger pellets perform better than smaller is that they carry more energy with them, and they typically are able to go longer ranges just because they carry that energy with them. They shoot further than the small pellets. It's kind of like, I think, Chris, you and I did this analogy once before. If I had a baseball in my hand and then I had a ping pong ball in my other hand, I could fit more ping pong balls in one hand and throw multiple of them. I could maybe fit 2 baseballs in my hand, and that's all I can fit. But they're going to be heavier. I'll be able to throw those baseballs further than that handful of ping pong balls,
Well,
right?
you could use marbles too, because those marbles still wouldn't go as far.
Sure. Yeah. So what we're talking about here essentially is, do you want more pellets on target at a shorter range, or do you want fewer pellets on target at a longer range? That's kind of where the conversation goes when it comes to shot size. So you've got your 9s all the way down through 1s, and then after your 1s you get to your letters, which gets weird. Typically the letters are for big birds. BB, triple B, those are for geese. Then there's also T. I don't know anyone who uses that. I've never even seen it on the shelf, but it exists. And then you've got like your buckshot and some other stuff, which is not legal in a lot of states now. Um, but a lot of people use buckshot for like self defense, home shotguns, that kind of stuff. But anyway, those are important things to take into consideration when talking shotguns. Not just the type of shotgun you shoot, but also the type of shot that you're shooting.
Yeah.
Um,
Then are we? Should we move to buckshot?
yeah, why don't you touch on buckshot?
So, like Peter said, buckshot is fewer but much larger pellets in that shot. Typically, I th- I don't. I'm pulling this off the top of my head. I think it's like 8 to 12 pellets, and they're like a quarter to a third, I think, in size from of a is it an inch?
Something like that. I don't know. I've never really shot
You should go
buckshot,
out,
so
Fleet, buy yourself a box of them, cut one open, and then you can see. No,
you could.
you can Google stuff like that, but
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna have less in there, like Peter said. But medium sized game like deer and home defense, but those are no more not allowed really anymore anywhere, from what I understand.
I think there are places you can still. I think it's very uncommon now. It used to be very
I
commonplace
don't know why
back
you'd want to, because
in the 20th century.
it's such an old setup, right? It's an old version of how you would load your firearm from an ammo standpoint. So,
And it would be a
more
very short range situation. I mean,
yeah,
you're not taking pokes at 80 to
yeah.
100 yards or anything with that. So
Spreads tighter too, typically. That depends a little bit on your choke, but typically, because you just have some bigger um, projectiles coming out there, they're not going to vary as much, um, and it hits harder, right? So,
mm-hmm.
and then you get into your slugs, because I don't know if there's much more to actually talk about from a buckshot standpoint. But your slugs, you get a single projectile inside that bullet, and uh, instead of it spreading out, you just better be on target, or better know where that gun is shooting, and it's best for your deer, bear, pig,
Yep.
or like those types of things. And then
Now,
it's
Chris,
a
we've talked.
ton of energy
Well,
versus
we've talked
like
a lot about shotguns with rifled barrels, right? So let's just say you're someone who you don't have a rifled barrel for your shotgun. Maybe the model shotgun you bought doesn't have the ability to swap out barrels. Can you shoot slugs out of a smoothbore barrel or like a bird barrel?
it depends what your manufacturer says, and then it also depends the type of load you're using on the box, right? And you should go
Mhm.
in more in you should go into that more because I think you have a better understanding of that.
So when I first started shotgun hunting for deer, I did not have a rifled barrel on my pump action shotgun. I had just smooth bore. When we say smooth bore, that's just your bird barrel. There's no rifling to it. It is you look through it and it just looks like a metal tube. It's essentially what it is.
And when it's
Um,
clean, it's very smooth.
very shiny. Whereas with a rifled barrel, you will see grooves and rifling in that barrel, just like a centerfire rifle. Now, you can shoot slugs through most smoothbore barrels. I can't really think of many situations where you wouldn't be able to. Big thing is you got to make sure you don't have a tight constriction choke on your. It really depends on what kind of choke you have on your shotgun. That's going to determine whether you can shoot slugs out of it. Your manufacturer will say or tell you what's the max or the maximum constriction you can have in order to use slugs. Um, but there's two main types of slugs that you can use in a shotgun. There's something called a rifled slug, which is pretty much like it's a slug, but it has rifling on the slug. And the idea is that if you're shooting that out of a smooth bore barrel, that the rifling on the slug will get the projectile to start to spin and get that rotation going. And then you have your sabot slugs. Now, sabot slugs there is not any rifling on it. It looks just like maybe like a muzzle loader projectile or like just like a big bullet, but it has this plastic, what's called a sabot on the back of it. And really that is what guides that slug down the barrel and starts its rotation and really gives it its good accuracy. So inherently you want to shoot sabot slugs out of a rifled barrel, and you want to shoot rifled slugs out of a smoothbore barrel. Now, when you're shooting slugs out of a smoothbore barrel, you can essentially expect the performance of kind of like a musket, just because um, the rifling on the slug, I don't think it really does a whole lot. It might give it a little bit of spin, but I really don't think it's probably doing you a whole lot of favors in terms of accuracy. So if you are shooting slugs out of a smooth bore barrel, you really do need to limit your shots to probably 80 yards and in. And I would test it and see how accurate you can be with it, just because they're pretty unreliable. Whereas with a rifled barrel with a sabot slugs, you can shoot out a couple hundred yards with practice. I think there needs to be an asterisk there.
Mm-hmm.
With practice, you can do it. It's not as easy as shooting a centerfire rifle,
You will
but
only ever be as accurate as much as you practice.
yep, it's very true. And we should probably practice more. It's just kind of expensive and it takes time. So
Should 100% practice more. And I mean, I think a proficient. Well, what would you say would be proficient if you were using your rifle or your slug gun on a plate?
well, yeah, kind of like the traditional. If you can hit a pie plate, you're
Yeah,
you're
I'm
good
not
to
even
go.
saying. I'm not even talking about like accuracy wise from like 100 yards and putting it on like a bullseye. I'm talking about where's your kind of max effective range as far as not from what the bullet can do or what the gun can do, but what you can do comfortably,
Sure.
consistently. I would say it has to be 10 out of 10 times at a certain range, right? Because that's where I think I'd be like, yep, I trust you as my hunting buddy. Or when you're analyzing yourself, you don't want to be 9 out of 10. You want to be
Right.
10 out of 10, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because a plate, we shoot an 8-inch plate, um, right? I think it's 8 inches.
Yeah, it's an 8 inch gong.
Yeah, and that's as long as we're dialed in and we've dialed the correct stuff in. You and I should be able to hit that 10 out of 10 times at 400 with our
Hmm.
rifles. So I guess again back to practice. It's not like 5 out of 10 times.
Right.
This is not the conversation you ever want to be having as a hunter. You want to know like you're deadly accurate at this range. You're always comfortable. You don't have to worry about it. The moment you start stretching out there, you're starting to wound animals. You're starting to not know where that bullet's going. It just gets hairy pretty quick,
Yep.
and then you're missing the opportunity too. So if you have a nice animal that you're going to harvest, and you're like, oh, it's 600, and I've only ever shot like under four. Like in theory, if you're like spot on, yes, like at 400, and you know how to dial, math should and science should just let you stretch out. But at the same time, we kind of have a rule, or we do have a rule with ourselves, like in our group, you and me, that we will only ever take shots as far as we've shot or shot before, and that's
And shot successfully
yeah,
and
and
feel
that's
comfortable with.
550, and that's not
Hmm.
even like 10 out of 10 consistency, right?
Right.
That so that's where there's some conversation to have there, and there's also practice. We're back to practice. You need to practice. You need to be comfortable to be an ethical hunter in the field.
Yeah. So that again, that's on slugs, those single projectiles. When we're talking, shot, it's a little bit of a different conversation, but also similar. Just kind of knowing what would be effective ranges given your setup and the ammunition you're using. We should touch on chokes, Chris. Do you want to talk about chokes a little bit?
Yeah, before talking on chokes, because it leads into to chokes. Like bird shot when you're shooting waterfowl, like that doesn't really come into play with the accuracy space that we were just talking about from a rifle, like a single projectile space, because the bees are spreading. You need to know where your spread is, right? You need to know like, oh, at 40 yards, this is going to be my like watermelon size spread, or vice versa, like bigger or smaller. Um, so you can, and it's cheaper to shoot those rounds out of your shotgun. It's not as expensive typically.
It's not like a buck
Um,
50 every time you pull the trigger.
well, it depends if you're using like, was it Black Cloud or some of those
Yeah,
ammos that are
it can be, yeah, but if like for
really expensive.
practice,
But I'm
for
talking like if
practice,
you're shooting ducks, I think the statistics are that a fourth of all ducks shot are never recovered in America every year. It's like a terrible statistic. Um, but when birds are flying by, you're just trying to get pellets on the target. And if that's one pellet that gets that bird to expire, or if it's 20, it's not really going to matter. But if you're talking about like going elk hunting or bear hunting, like putting around like a single projectile somewhere in that animal that is just going to wound it and make it suffer. It's the same conversation. It's just a little different. You can't be singularly accurate with your shotgun spread from a bird like BB standpoint.
hmm
So um, does that make sense? Did I explain that right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I
So
did want
then,
to clear. I did want to clarify something quick. I did look
yeah.
it up. The statistic is that it's estimated that 10 to 15% of ducks that are shot during the hunting season are not
Mm,
retrieved, which is a shame. It really
mm,
is. I mean, and that it happens because there's a myriad of factors that kind of play into that. Whether it's just like you just can't find them because they dropped into the thickest cattails and brush. Maybe you're not hunting with a dog, so
yep.
it's harder to find those birds. Um, but I think a lot of that loss is preventable. By just being a better shot, practicing, not winging birds, that kind of stuff, but also taking smart shots. Like if you're in a boat and you've just got acres of cattails behind you, thick nasty cattails, and there's a duck straight up above you and it's flying, flying where it's going to be flying behind you. Don't shoot it straight out of the air because that duck is going to fall down to those cattails and you're never going to find it.
Yeah, like you just would have shot it for no reason.
Yeah, pretty much. So um Yeah, but that
We try
is
to think about that. You know your hunting space, you know your setup, you know where your kill zone is. So just be and then get out and practice
yeah.
because the better shot you are, the more animals like waterfowl and any
You
other
will
type of bird you should be able to recover better.
you will lose birds. Like
Yep.
that's a given. You will lose birds at some
Yep.
point. But the more experience you gain, I think you'll lose less and less just because you'll be a little more aware of the shots you're taking, and you just become a better shot in
Yeah.
general. So
But from a choke standpoint, that's what you wanted to get into.
yeah, yeah. Talk to me about chokes. Tell me what are chokes? What purpose do they serve? Are there different kinds?
Yeah. So on the end of rifles or shotguns, there's something called threading. And threading is, think of it as a screw going in your wall, but you're threading with that groove at the end of the barrel to put an accessory, which is a choke on the end of your shotgun. And it screws in, and what it does is it opens up the spread or closes down, or in other words, restricts the spread for how far out those BBs are going to fly and then how wide. So you can think of like softball size, like if you had shot and that softball's filled with BBs, or you can think of like a watermelon size or even larger because they're gonna as the BBs move away further from you, they lose velocity, so they're slowing down right from the get go, and then they're also going to be pulled down, so they're essentially a big arc, and um, they're going to spread out while they're doing that. So knowing where your max effective range is on what you're shooting, what the speed is of the ammo, how big the BBs are, I would just encourage you to get out and put up some big random targets. Big cardboard. You could draw a smiley face on there, or you could draw whatever you want on there, like a do your best deer artwork you've ever done, and then you could shoot it up, and then you could probably go sell it for $1 million. You never know. The artwork today is nuts for what people buy, but um, it's really actually cool to see what the spread is like. So we've gone out numerous times, put up some big pieces of cardboard, and you shoot at 30 yards, 40 yards, 50 yards, 60 yards. And depending on the choke size, which is what we're talking about, you can really see like swapping those out and the constriction of that or opening it up. You can see kind of like what you might be comfortable with based on the game you're hunting and based on the distance uh, that you are shooting at. So it's super relevant and helpful. Like to
Hmm.
see that with your eyes gives such context because it's not, again, not a single projectile coming out and like ringing a gong uh, far away. You're within 60 yards. A lot of variance is happening depending on the setup of your shotgun.
Yeah, and the whole goal is essentially to have as many BBs or pellets on target as possible, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the different chokes are going to determine kind of how big that spread is. And I think the standard that they kind of use to measure is for each choke is the ideal distance or the ideal essentially the that your your spread size will be 40 inches at a given distance. That's kind of the standard that they use to measure. So
What's your go-to? Like if we're gonna go waterfowl hunting and mallards, ducks, or whatever, like doesn't matter. But
my
what's
go-to
your
my
yeah?
go-to is modified choke.
Why?
um Modified is kind of right in the middle, which is where I like to operate a lot of times. So on the spectrum, the most common choke types you're going to hear are cylindrical, which is going to be like really short range. You're going to have improved cylinder, which is a little bit tighter. Then you have modified, which is going to be kind of right in the middle. Then you're going to be kind of your improved modified, and then your full, which is starting to get real tight, and then your extra full, which is really tight. That's going to be like turkey hunting. You want it to be as tight as possible because when on a turkey, you're just aiming for the head. Whereas with duck hunting, you're just aiming for the duck. You just want to hit the duck. So I go with modified because I think the ideal range for a modified choke is anywhere from like 30 to 40 yards. somewhere in there, or maybe like 25 to 35 yards ish, somewhere in there. Um, and why I like that is I can still hit the duck if it's closer to me, and I can stretch it out a little bit if I need to. I know I can because I've tested my loads with my gun with that choke, and I know it's capable of it. And I've seen how many pellets or how many BBs it can put on target, and I feel comfortable with that. That's why I run a modified. But again, I'll change chokes for different situations throughout the hunting season for different species, different times of year, because there's a million different kind of things that go into making these decisions, whether it's shot size or your choke that you're using.
Did you ever
Um,
listen to the podcast where they were talking about using full? And the guy, his argument was aim small, miss small. And if I,
mhm,
didn't hit the bird, that bird's not getting wounded and I know I missed it. So ethically, I can feel good about seeing that animal fly off. And then if I hit it, I'm actually putting more BBs into the space of that animal. So it is actually improving my chances to put it on the ground. Um, I thought that was so applicable and so relevant to being an ethical hunter. Um, it's not right or wrong, but if you are actually a proficient shot, like a great shot with your shotgun, I can see how that argument is got a lot of validity to it, and it's actually affected me. Like I like to run more of the full, or I would like actually to have an improved modified, that which is in between that modified and the full. The full you get into, you're probably looking into more trap and turkey space. It's not quite a turkey choke, but it's in that ballpark of allowing the constriction of those BBs. And then I just like to know, and you've seen me do it. I've hit some pretty nice long shots in our time. Um, those are really satisfying because you're gonna have these guys come buzzing in, and a couple shotguns that go off, and they'll be getting away, and you'll have an extra, and you'll just see him nosedive way out in the water or something like that. That's really satisfying.
mhm.
But that goes to validate what that guy was arguing in the podcast. I don't remember if it was Vortex or
Yeah, I
something
don't
like
I
that.
don't
That
remember. I don't remember. I know what you're talking about. I don't remember which one. Oh, actually, it might have been a meat eater thing,
oh
possibly.
yeah, maybe that was
Yeah, I
right.
think
They
it
had
was from a
somebody
couple
on.
years. I think it was from a couple years ago.
Yeah,
But yeah, I understand the argument with that. I think it really, because he was talking from the perspective of duck hunting, and I think there could be.
which is all he did.
I think there's an argument to be made for that, maybe with waterfowl, but I would not go into the grouse woods with a full choke.
No, I'm literally only talking duck right now.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, but
from the winged animals that are like going across the water or coming down, setting
mhm,
in. I want to shoot modified. Like I like having the more open size of shot at that 25, maybe 35 yards, right in there, that sweet spot.
mhm,
But I've always found that when they're out like 35 to 45, if not 50, is like getting to where you're like not going to shoot anymore. But
yeah,
that 35 to 50 right in there where I still feel like I should be able to down that bird, I've gotten frustrated. So I've started to go more to the full, and so far I think it's worked nice because you shoot modified, and that feels like you have the mids covered really well, and then
mhm,
I can poke at some of those longer ones because when the opportunities do get scarce, it's nice to have a buddy next to you with that extra, they're putting their gun on target,
yep,
trying to maximize your take, I guess, of that day.
yeah. Well, in this conversation, I want to point out one of the benefits because when I first started hunting with you guys and I brought my side by side, you guys kind of poked fun at me. That's how I got the nickname Two Pop because have the side by side shotgun duck hunting. But one of the benefits of having a side by side shotgun and having two barrels is that I can run two different size chokes. I can have one barrel that's meant for more kind of your first shot, maybe something closer range, and then I can have another barrel with a tighter constriction choke for some of those longer shots. Um, so for my grouse gun, for example, my 20 gauge, I have my so this gun is old. It's an older gun. I inherited it from my grandfather, so it doesn't have replaceable chokes. The barrels are bored at a specific constriction. That is what they're drilled to, right? Or lathed to, whatever you want to call it. My right barrel is improved cylinder and my left barrel is modified. And the reason that they are is that for the purpose of this gun, which is mostly upland, that first shot more often than not is going to be 20 yards and in. And then that second shot, if you don't hit on the first, is going to be a little further. Or if there's another bird that flushes afterwards, by chances are that bird's going to be a little bit further. So there is a benefit to having two barrels, believe it or not, even though it's older and antiquated in the eyes of some.
I mean, we gave you a bunch of crap when you first got out there, and it was kind of endearing, I think.
I'm not offended by it. I think it's just funny.
Oh, I'm not even apologizing to you because I don't think you deserve an apology. I just you coming out with this side by side. We're like, who's Farmer Pete over here? He where's his overalls? Like that was kind of the how we felt about it because none of us had ever run side by sides. Like none of my grandpas had side by side. Nobody had them. So it was fun to, and it's a cool name, Two Pop, because
It's a good
boom,
name.
boom, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's always stuck.
Well, I feel like we've covered shotguns pretty good in terms of different types, shot size, chokes, and everything. So now let's get down to the mashed potatoes and gravy of the discussion here, especially for you new hunters or aspiring hunters that are listening, and maybe you want to get into some kind of bird hunting. We're gonna go through the types of hunting where shotgun are used. We're going to talk about upland birds. We're going to talk about waterfowl. We're going to talk about turkeys. We'll talk a little bit about big game because we've already touched on it a decent amount, so we won't spend too much time on that. But we're going to talk about what type of shotgun might be ideal for each of those, and then maybe preferred shot size and choke. Does that sound like a good plan to you, Chris?
Let's do it.
Cool. All right,
You
so
want to do
let's
rapid fire with some nuances? We can circle back around or no?
let's not go super rapid. I
All
think
right,
there are
get ready,
some.
set, go.
Okay, upland bird hunting. So let's start with pheasant.
Double-handed side by side,
Double-handed. What does
like
that even
like a
mean?
left hand and right
Oh,
hand. You're
okay,
two of
yeah,
them. So
yep,
now
I
you're
gotcha.
four. You got four barrels.
Double fisting. Okay, uh, that would be ideal. Okay, so shotgun ideal for pheasant, grouse, quail, and dove. So let's just upland bird hunting. Um, what would be your go-to, Chris? What would you probably choose for that? Because our answers might
You
differ.
want preferred size and choke,
I want you to
shot
say
size
what
and
kind.
choke.
I want you to say what kind of shotgun. I want you to say what choke you're going to use and what shot size.
That I have or don't have. Can it be
Doesn't
any?
doesn't matter. What would you do?
Oh, upland bird. I'd probably do an over under, a really nice one.
Okay,
If I had no endless budget, but it might be like a 16 gauge.
16. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you use that 16 for all of those? So we said pheasant, grouse, quail, and doves. So those are kind of descending in size. With pheasant being the biggest, moving down that scale, grouse, quail, and
Pheasant,
then doves being the
grouse,
smallest.
quail, yes. Dove,
Okay.
I just want my straight semi-automatic. I like my Stoger for that. Those
Mm-hmm.
things are I just want to knock them down, so I don't need to have any like I think the over under makes you feel a little bit uh
Fancy.
yes, we'll use the word fancy. And I think it's okay at times in life to be fancy.
Yeah.
This is one of them.
Yeah.
Because the upland bird hunting is more of it's like that old school sport. It's like, hello, old sport. We're going out to shoot the pheasants and
Yeah,
uh
it is. It does kind of seem to be like the the land owning oligarch, kind
Yeah,
of
but
kind of feel to
you
it.
would bring in the pheasant, grouse, or quail and put it on the dinner, like you'd cook it and put it on the dinner table, right? So
Yeah.
if you're going out with the gents and you got scars, and you're
You're wearing
usually
tweed jackets.
you're usually wearing the jackets, and like I think that's okay. Like it's okay to have a little bit of
Uh,
fun, and I think that's the whole point of that space. Like you're going to do something, and you're the better shot guys in those groups are usually the ones that are renowned and they're respected, and you know what I mean.
yeah, I will say the cultural difference between upland bird hunters and like duck hunters, they're so different, so different.
uh,
But yeah,
what
I
about
mean,
you?
so for me, and again, this is just coming from my experience. I would for upland, I would probably use a side by side or just a double barrel in general. But I like side by sides because truly side by sides are the old school, and you can still buy classic side by sides that were literally made like over 100 years ago, and they're like collector's items, but you can still hunt with them. There is kind of like a whole subculture of side by side shotgun owners. It's kind of weird. There's like no middle ground. It's like either you're into really fancy side by sides, or you're kind of like just like country bumpkin with a cheap side by side. But anyway, I would probably use side by side shotgun for, um, yeah, probably for those three: pheasant, grouse, and quail. I would probably personally go with a 20 gauge just because I really do love a 20 gauge, just for its carryability and everything. Um, and then I would probably stick with that semi-auto for doves just because I do like those quick follow up shots. Um,
I just realized I might need to get a designated dove gun.
I would switch to maybe a 20 gauge or something then, or like a
Yeah,
28 gauge.
yeah, that's what I'm
Be
thinking.
semi-auto would be super fun. Um, so for shot size for pheasants, I think I would probably use a. I think I'd probably use
5.
5 shot for pheasant. Lead if possible, but if I'm hunting in an area that I have to use steel, then I will. I'd prefer to use.
I'm gonna up the size then. Like we've
Yeah,
traditionally been pheasant hunting, and it's almost felt like the pheasants are resilient.
if I'm hunting pheasants with steel, I'll probably go like with like 3 or 4.
Yeah,
Um, then with grouse, yep, 20 gauge side by side. I'll probably use good all around is like 7.5. But once you get kind of into the later season and they start flushing a little, they're a little more skittish, so they flush a little earlier, a little further out. I'd probably move to probably like a 6 shot. Quail, I haven't hunted quail, but again, they're a smaller bird, so I'd probably stick with like a 7.5 or an 8. And doves, we have typically hunted with 7.5 and 8 shot. Um, choke, I since I'm using my side by side, I'll stick by what I said, and I would just use a 1 barrel improved cylinder and another modified.
all right.
Okay, waterfowl.
Well, I'm definitely sticking with my 12. I'd love 3.5-inch shells. Uh,
Would you though?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
might need to get a
I mean,
nice
the
little
opportunity
shoulder
that we
pad.
have with geese coming in all the time, like I need that, right? Geese, by the way, everyone, geese never come into our spreads.
Well, so the benefit of running a shotgun with a 3.5 inch chamber is that you can still shoot shells, shorter shells out of it. You don't have to shoot 3.5s. So I guess I do see what you're saying by at least having the ability to shoot 3.5s in case those geese come in. But I don't know, you could put down geese no problem with
Yeah,
3 inch shells too.
yeah. No, I enjoy the Stoker that I shoot now. Um, I'd like a nice shotgun, but from an application standpoint, it does the job. Um, just typically shooting, 4 for those ducks. If it's mallards, you're going to look at the 2s, probably 3s, somewhere in there.
Mm-hmm.
And then we talked about it, but I'd like to. Maybe that's one thing I'll invest in this fall is an improved modified
Yeah.
because
Well, you should
I have the
look.
full, I have the modified, I have
Well,
improved cylinder.
I have to double check and see what the constrictions are on the chokes that we use because we use the Carlson Cremator
Hmm.
um extended choke tubes,
Hmm.
and they don't say whether they're modified or full on them. They just say mid range, long range. I'll have to check what the actual constrictions on them are,
Oh, it might
and
be an improved modified then.
it might already be improved modified. I can't remember for sure,
Mm,
so we'll have to look that up. But um,
okay.
yeah,
What about
yeah.
you?
I mean, I'm probably not gonna deviate much from you. Semi-auto 12 gauge for ducks. For early season ducks like teal, I might actually lean like 5 or 6 shot, just because you're getting more pellets, and they're such small birds and they fly so fast. Um, but definitely for like, you know, maybe right around duck opener. So you're probably going to be looking at a lot of like wood ducks and maybe some mallards, some teal. Yeah, 4 shot is a pretty good kind of earlier season or season opener shot size. And then yeah, later into the season, I'll move into those twos for the bigger ducks, and maybe some divers if we get out for divers, which we don't often. And then BB for goose. And yeah,
Oh yeah.
I'm probably pretty much using a modified choke or whatever that mid range choke is for pretty much all season. Early season, I could argue you could get away with an improved cylinder, just because they earlier in the season they're a little dumber, especially if they're teal, so they are willing to come in a little closer and decoy a lot easier. But again, I think I'd rather stick with the modified, just so I can take a little bit of a longer shot if I need to. All right, turkey hunting, Chris.
Turkey hunting. It's about to happen. We're
I know
about
it's
to
so soon.
we're
It's
about
so
to do some
soon.
turkey hunting. I'm not going to get my red dot in time, so very disappointed in the website that I always go through. They really let me. I called them today as well. Didn't find that their answers were acceptable to me, and they
Yeah.
told me I could look for other options. I was like, "Wow, your loyalty program's awesome." Anyways, yeah, I mean a good pump shotgun. I've shot the majority of my turkeys with my 870, and I like my 870 because, to be honest, it's a little bit. It feels like a little bit. It's really well made. So when like I pull the trigger, it feels like I'm putting oomph on that bird versus when like I've used my Stoker as well, but it doesn't seem to carry the same oomph that I'm accustomed to. But I think that's what I was going to do. I was going to put my well, I was thinking I was going to put my red dot because I want to designate a turkey gun, right? And that would be my pump gun because
Hmm.
you don't need to shoot multiple rounds at a turkey. You better hit the turkey the first
You
shot.
typically don't have to.
Yeah. But waterfowl, it's nice to have the extra ones in the chamber, but or in the waiting. Um, yeah, I like shooting tighter, and I just go out and buy yourself some turkey load,
Yep. Some
Winchester
decent
turkey load
turkey
or
load.
something like that.
Yeah, we typically use Winchester Longbeard XR, which is a good load. It's all lead. Um, Kind of all the rage right now in turkey hunting is using tungsten or TSS, which I mean the results speak for themselves. It's just for me, I just it's hard for me to justify the expense because they're so freaking expensive. I mean, it's $60, or yeah, almost $60 for a box of, is it 10 shells? So it's $6 every time you pull the trigger. I uh they work extremely well. I don't know. I've never
To
had
be
issues.
fair, to be
I've never had
fair,
issues killing a turkey with the shot I use. So
to be fair though, you are only using like one should be only using one shell a season.
yeah, I mean that is a legitimate argument. So if you get a box of 10 shells or whatever it is that you get, I mean, I guess you're, yeah, I get it, but I don't know. What I use has worked really well for me, so I just kind of feel like I don't. There's things in hunting where I'm like, oh, this is working. I think I'm gonna change it, and then I'll be like,
Yeah.
oh, this is working. I'm not gonna change it. For whatever reason, turkey shells have kind of been the latter for me. Just don't feel the need to really change it. Only change I'm making this year is the red dot, so that will that'll be interesting. Um,
I'll still be rolling open sights.
Old school, Chris. It's old school.
It's never failed me. Oh, actually, it has.
Actually, it has. Wah,
Actually, it has a
wah.
couple times on deer and on some turkey. Uh,
Oh, that was the whole point of you originally wanting to get a red
let's
dot.
move on. Let's move on.
Okay.
I'm actually
um,
like I just googled and I'm scrolling through the best shotguns out there.
yeah.
So Winchester Super X4.
Yep. SX4.
Get your 870 Remington. Benelli Ethos Cordoba
Yeah, it's a fairly new gun, I think.
BEST. Looks so like Lamborghini-ish.
Yeah. Well, it's also made by the Italians, so.
Benelli
Hmm.
M2, Benelli Nova, Benelli Super Black Eagle.
Yeah.
That's kind of the crown jewel, right? The one that people want in a lot of
Yeah,
spaces.
especially amongst like waterfowlers and stuff. It's kind of the cream of the crop. Um, Weatherby's been coming out with some really pretty cool shotguns lately. I really want their Sorix. That's what I think my next shotgun will be.
This Franke looks kind of cool.
The Affinity.
Yeah.
Yep, that's another really great shotgun. I think I've heard from multiple people that that's like one of the best overall shotguns. Just kind of
Is that gas or is it inertia?
inertia. Yep. Okay, let's jump back to slug guns really quick here, Chris, because we've already touched on it. We've already talked about smoothbore versus rifled barrels. We've talked about the different types of slugs, whether it be rifled slugs or sabot. Um, let's just talk about our slug gun setups a little bit. Why we chose what we did, maybe the scope that we have on there.
You want me to just
Yeah,
talk about it?
you go ahead first.
I don't even know what I have on my it's a slug optic
Chris,
setup.
you have the Nikon ProMaster 2-7 by 42. Actually, no, yours isn't 42. Yours is 32. 2-7 by 32 BDC reticle.
Wow.
I know because I helped you pick that scope.
Oh, okay. It's been fantastic. It does the job.
What kind of gun do you have?
Been very pleased with it. I got the Savage 220,
So that is a
and
20 gauge.
yeah, and it's bolt action. It's fantastic. It's
Yep.
fantastic. I know. There's been another guy that ordered one or bought one, and he couldn't get it to pattern. But I don't know if he was using. Oh, maybe he was. Yeah, he was. He just couldn't get it to pattern.
He
Well,
was using the Remington AccuTips, or was he using the Hornady SSTs?
I think he was using the AccuTips.
He couldn't get it to
Um,
pattern?
he had the SSTs as well. Yeah,
Interesting.
returned it, but everybody else who's used it swears by it. So
Well,
I
in
don't.
the Remington AccuTips, those are the slugs that Savage recommends to shoot out of that gun.
Yeah, I mean, again, it could have been a default or something with
Could have been a
something
lemon.
going on because one, two, three, four guys in our group roll with it, and
Mhm.
they all swear by it, and we've shot multiple times out to 200. So yeah, from that standpoint, it's fantastic. What else do you want me to say about it?
Um, anything? Is there anything special about the gun?
I don't like the plastic mag or the plastic. I can't think of the word. All the shells go in, and I put it in the bottom of the gun. I can't think of it. So
Magazine?
it is.
Magazine.
Isn't there another word for it?
No, it's a magazine.
Maybe my brain is thinking back to that guy. I think he's a senator or somebody, a Democrat, and he's like talking about this is a 30-round clip shooting 30 bullets in 1 second, or something like that, because he's trying to do gun control things. And it's always seared in my brain of clip and mag, and he's all confused, and it's hilarious. And now I feel confused, but no, it's just plastic on the bottom of it, and it doesn't. Uh, there's no issue. Like I haven't had an issue with it. Um, Clicks in there really well. Super firm, doesn't jiggle or anything like that. But it is a little bit of a if you don't rack that bolt with a little bit of force,
Mm-hmm.
um, it can get a little. It feels a little sticky. Maybe I guess I would say it's not my TK action on my rifle for sure.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing to consider too, Chris, is that centerfire rifle.
and they're shotgun
They're
shells. So
they're
like
shotgun shells. I just don't
they're
feel like
not
they're going to
made for that.
feed
Yeah.
as smoothly as like a centerfire rifle cartridge, especially since the bullet on the cartridge is sticking out the front as opposed to on a shotgun. It's
Yeah.
just flat faced. So,
Mm-hmm.
but no, you got a pretty awesome gun, and yeah, I know a few of the guys in our deer camp use that same gun, and they've all really loved it. But
It's been awesome. You use a really fun one, which I did see one at Cabela's, and I should have bought it when I saw it because it was gone literally, I think, the next day. And it was mint. Tell us about
yeah,
it.
so I have a slug gun. It is a Harrington and Richardson Ultra Slug Hunter in 20 gauge. They do have a 12 gauge version, but Harrington and Richardson is no more as a company, so they are no longer manufacturing firearms. And so this, if you are lucky enough to find one on the shelves, buy it because they are true. When you hear all the time that guns are attack drivers, but when I say that this gun, this little gun, is a tack driver, I mean it is a tack driver. It's it's got a wood stock, so it's not like composite or synthetic or anything, and it has a bull barrel on it. Now, what a bull barrel is essentially, so it's 20 gauge, but the actual outer wall of the barrel is extra thick. And that is beneficial in the fact that it has a lot to do with barrel harmonics and just how the just essentially how the gun fires the projectile. And it's also a very short barrel, so it's very nice to carry around and handle. It's very heavy, but it's a short barrel. I think the barrel's got to be 20 inches max. Would you agree with that?
It's small. I was confused what you brought to the hunting camp the first time I saw it.
Yep, but the groups that I was shooting speak for themselves, and what's kind of cool about it is that it is a break action single shot. So I've got one shot to make my kill, and usually that is enough. Um, and it's got a hammer and everything, so it's just the coolest little gun. And the fun part is that I put a three to I think is a 3 to 9 by 40 scope on it, and it's a BDC reticle. And so it's just funny because the scope, it's not like a big scope, but it's not tiny either. But that scope on that tiny little gun just looks hilarious. We call it the blunderbuss just because it's so short and stout, but it just shoots awesome. I love that
It's
thing
like
so much.
Elmer Fudd doesn't carry around a stubby shotgun, does he? It's not like the
Yeah, I think he kind
what's
of
the guns
does.
that look. Is that what you're saying? The guns that look like they have their horn, like their trumpet front.
Yeah, that's a blunderbuss.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't because it doesn't look like a blunderbuss. Just the overall size of it kind of does. It's just kind of stocky and stout. It's great.
it's fun.
Um, yeah, it
It's very
is.
cool, and I wish I
But
would have spent the $600 to get the one at Cabela's.
I didn't have to spend that much to get mine. But I shoot the Remington AccuTips. I shoot the 3-inch shells, Remington AccuTips. And I'm trying to remember what the
We all do.
And I'm trying to remember what the grain weight on those is. It's like 200. It's like 260 grains, I think. Heavy. It's a
Yeah,
heavy
that
projectile.
sounds good. That sounds right.
But boy, it puts the hammer on deer, which is really fun. They
Hmm.
pretty much drop instantly. They very rarely run
Yeah.
after they get hit with that thing.
You have on here building the ultimate versatile shotgun. Talk to me
Yeah.
about that.
So we've already touched on it a little bit. You can do a lot with one shotgun. So Chris, I thought it would be interesting if we could only own one shotgun and we could build the shotgun we want. What would you do? What kind of shotgun would you get?
Well, there's probably no question. It's an 870 Express, nice finish, swappable barrels.
Yep. I think I would probably the only change I would make there is I would go to like a synthetic one, or
Mhm.
maybe one with like a camo pattern on it, which I mean camo really doesn't, I mean it probably doesn't matter that much, but Yeah, I'd probably get a Remington 870, 12 gauge. Yeah, with a swappable barrel. I would probably, man, if I was, you can, I mean, you can put a scope on it. So
Yeah, I mean, my
I'd probably
cousin
scope it.
Jordan ran a scope for a while on his.
Yeah, I'd probably scope it. Um, maybe a recoil pad on there, aftermarket recoil pad.
Yeah, it just depends if you're gonna deer hunt with it or not.
Yeah. So there you have it, folks. The Remington 870, best best all around shotgun that can do pretty much anything. I mean, you could swap that with a Mossberg 500. They're very very similar
What
guns.
surprises me is people like trade those in.
870s.
Yeah, like they're like the ultimate shotgun to me. Like they do everything. They're fantastic. They stand the test of time if you keep them, if you know, keep them well kept and like any firearm. But it's just fascinating to see them on the shelves, and I can only imagine it's like the the husband dies or something, and then the wife brings him in because she has no more use for it. But she should have that thing like by the door,
She
and
should.
some strange person comes up. And she's like, "Get out of here!"
Yeah, I think I don't own an 870 personally.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like if I did, I don't think I could sell it just because
Does everything.
it
It's
does everything. It'd be a great first shotgun for a kid.
yep,
Um,
especially a 20 gauge.
yeah, especially if it were in 20 gauge, that would be awesome. Um, yeah, shotguns, man, jack of all trades. They really can do pretty much anything. I think I'd probably choose a shotgun if I could only have one gun ever for the rest of my life.
Oh, I thought it was just if you could only have one shotgun. You're saying one gun for the rest of your life?
No. Just I am saying just one shotgun, but yeah, I was talking about building the ultimate
I mean,
versatile shotgun.
it might be an 870 if I can only own one gun the rest of my life too.
Might be, yeah. I wouldn't disagree. I could see the I could see going to a semi-auto.
I got the yawns. Got the yawns right now. I'm yawning.
I hate that.
We just
Um,
put our two boys in the same room now, and that's an adventure. It's an adventure, like putting them both down to go to sleep. And we figured out that you need to put the younger one down, which they're only like 5 months apart. But you put the younger one down by rocking him, and you kind of get him lulled, and then the other one will just.
enters the chat.
Well, they're just he'll like feel the temperature change, essentially. But the moment you walk out, he does one of two things. It's either a cry because he like you walked out, and now he's like he just I don't know. He's got it real bad when mom or dad leaves the house.
Hmm.
Separation anxiety, just real bad. Or else he'll start giggling and talking,
Interesting.
and you don't know which one you're gonna get every night.
We've got 3 boys in one bedroom.
Oh snap!
Hmm.
Is you got like a triple? Is that even a bunk bed? What do you call a triple bunk bed?
I don't know if do triple bunk beds exist.
Yeah, they do for sure.
Well, maybe, and
But it
we
wouldn't
probably
be
have
a
high enough ceilings for it. But
is a bunk. I guess I've always thought bunk beds are only dual, but that doesn't have a dual connotation. So I
it,
guess it could be a tri bunk bed because it's
we
you're
only have
bunking.
we have our standard dual bunk bed. Yes, for
Mm,
the older two, and then the youngest one is still in the crib.
mm.
But yeah, it's we took a shotgun approach
Oof.
to our boys being in the single room, but we figured it out.
Mm.
It works.
It's very funny.
Now he's trying to break out the bear puns.
Well,
Uh,
we'll be in Montana bear hunting in about you in 20 some days. Is it?
a month from today, I'll be on the road
Yeah,
on the way
then
out
I'll
to
be
Montana.
2 days behind you.
Yep. Well, Chris, should we wrap this thing up? We're starting to we're
Ramble.
starting to ramble and move on to
Yeah,
different.
shotguns are great, guys. Go pick some up at the store, handle them, like get a feel for them, ask questions about them.
Mm-hmm.
There's a fantastic amount of options out there. I don't think you can go wrong unless you buy the really crappy one from Fleet Farm, like I did.
Like
And
Dickinson.
yeah,
Just do some
sorry,
research, guys. If it's a big
sorry,
name,
Dickinson, your product sucked, bad.
just do some research, guys. Figure out what you want. The reason we talked up the 870, the Remington 870, so much is that they're widely available. They're affordable, and they're a great option for you. But if you want to know about any other shotguns that we might recommend, guns that we've had experience with, or just have questions about the different types of hunting when it comes to shotguns in general, reach out to us on social media. You can comment on YouTube. You can send us a DM, shoot us an email, go visit our website. You can contact us that way, and we'll have other content on there as well. But again, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Facebook. We have a Facebook group. Follow us on YouTube. Follow us, on the different podcast streaming platforms, whatever your favorite,
Tell your
that be
friends,
Spotify
join
or
the chats, comment. Let's get some conversations going. Love to hear what
join the
you guys are
community.
doing. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
Well, guys, until next time, a little preview for you. The next episode, we're going to be talking about how to read your shotgun shell box, because there's stuff on there, there's numbers on there that maybe don't make sense to you. We covered it a little bit today. We talked about shot size. We talked about, I don't think we really talked about shell size, but we talked about shot size. But we're going to talk about how to read your shotgun box, what all the information means, and so that way you're not completely lost when you go to the store and buy your first box of shells.
Yeah, we'll take it definitely like an hour and a half, 2 hours for that episode just to talk about the box. So you should definitely tune in for that.
Maybe that one will be a shorter episode.
I bet you we could do that in about 15 minutes.
We'll see. There might be some conversation to be had. But anyway, thanks guys for listening. We always appreciate the support, and we will talk to you next time.